evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another session of the sector in real estate, which is today, I think, the eyeball of real estate, and I call it the retail real estate, the malls, which are, the pillars of, the fabulous pillars of glamour, of fashion, of the lifestyle that we represent as individuals outside our own homes. So I think this panel I'm most grateful to all of them for actually sparing the time and joining us here today. They are the most eminent mall retailers of this country sitting right here on this panel, running some of the most fabulous malls in this country. What we're trying to achieve out of this session is that while we're trying to understand the industry as a whole, we're also looking at retail real estate. And so the brick and mortar business anyway has undergone a lot of change in the last few years with the digital onslaught. But this does not necessarily mean that everything is down. It means, it's the way things have changed, or probably the way people are operating their business has changed, and particularly these eminent mall retailers sitting next to me, what has really made the difference? They have created a cult which would probably make a difference for how people visit a mall and what they would like to do in a mall that is going to drive them to come to the mall via shopping on the internet, which is not that much fun, really. So, I'll kind of start the discussion with Yogeshwar. Yogeshwar, you've select CityWalk. It's like the favorite mall for all of us. We love to visit it from time to time. It has some great brands, some great experience. I think outside of any e-commerce company making a lot of noise, H&M came to your mall and made a lot of noise before they opened up. So my point is, what is it that you are doing within mall at Select CityWalk, which you feel is different from lots of other malls in this country? So what differentiation is it that you have created, which has led your mall to, kind of go high-rise in terms of the consumer who come there?
Can I be honest? Please. Yeah. This is a one mall company, so all eggs in one basket. So we have to really protect the basket with 100% focus. It's not like any other developer who have many malls and one of the malls. No? So, but honestly speaking, is the catchment which is adding to the success of the mall. That a lot of wealthy people live around the mall, and the timing was right because new brands are coming in, and wisdom prevailed in the initial period of our times that we did short leases, so we could churn the brands, and whenever this new brand is coming, so we are able to create the space. And surprisingly, the consumer is already evolved. They know about the brands ahead of us. We underestimate the brands, so power of the brand. So consumer is already evolved. They know the brands. They are waiting for the brands. And the moment we are able to put it together, they buy it. So that's the short point.
Sure. That's a good one, I would say. But I think, so it's about, I think the point that he's made is very good, that, give consumers what they want. If the consumers know the brands, then you need to get the brands which they really want to come and visit in your mall. So that is probably one key of really getting yourself in a numero uno position as a mall retailer. I'll come to Dinaz here. Dinaz, she heads as a senior vice president the Emporio Mall, which is India's most preeminent luxury mall, and also the Promenade Mall, apart from other projects that she does, which is hotels and a commercial. Okay, and hotels. So, what I would like to know from you, Dinaz, is that as a mall retailer, first as a professional, how do you kind of keep a balance between a luxury mall and between a premium mall? It's very hard in your own head to kind of get it right. So how do you as a professional, because I feel, for us to really build the projects that we need requires some immense amount of professionalism. And how is it that you get that professionalism right when you're managing multiple properties? And secondly, so you have a situation where you have a fewer tenants doing a lot of work. How do you keep that right equation amongst their multiple brands within your mall? As a tenant, you keep them happy and all his brands going.
I think she's posed such a long question that I'm going to take the entire session. Sorry, guys. But in terms of Emporio and Promenade, yes, you're right. They're two completely different ball games. But it helped that when I started, it was with the Emporio. And when Emporio and Promenade were conceptualized, they were conceptualized together. So anyways, there was a lot of synergy. And that's the reason why you see that Emporio does not have a food court or it does not have the cinemas, whilst Promenade has it. So we'd always planned for a flow-through. So that kind of a synergy helps. And what also happens is because of its proximity to Emporio, therefore the brand selection that you have for Promenade is very critical. We don't have any masstige brands. We have premium brands and we've consciously kept it that way. So when we have newer entrants coming in, because the malls are very cozy and boutique-like, therefore we don't have the luxury of space. We are in a luxury business, we don't have the luxury of space. But what happens therefore is we select the brands very carefully. So even today, what Yogeshwar said in terms of having shorter leases and therefore being able to churn them around, we didn't have those shorter leases. We had longer leases, but we worked with our brands to relocate them, and today we've been able to bring in a freshness of at least 30% of the brands in Promenade. We've churned them around. Also, when we started, we knew the kind of food and beverage brands that were required in the mall, and we thought we wanted high-end brands, so you had Tamangang, you had Izakaya, but unfortunately they didn't work in that format. What worked, what clicked was Sets, Cafe, Chashi, they worked beautifully, but these restaurants did not do as well. Smokehouse did beautifully, so we brought about a churn there because we realized customer is king. We may anticipate, we may visualize what is it that we think the customer wants, but over time, the mall develops its own personality and you need to fit in with that. So the mall Promenade today is, we always call it the fashion-forward mall. It's the mall you look to for setting trends, the new brands that are coming in, not in basics, but more towards fashion orientation. And therefore, over time, that's happened. What was the rest of your question? So differentiation, yes, but not so much of a differentiation, as I said, because the consumer does not see them as different malls. They walk through, and that's the discussion we were having a little while earlier, that to a consumer, they come to a destination. They're either going to Saket or they're going to Vasant Kunj. If they're going to Vasant Kunj, even if they plan to go to the Emporio, they will still walk through the other malls to see what's happening. Similarly, if they're going to Saket, they will visit both DLF Place as well as Select City Mall. So that kind of a thing, the consumer remains the same. And you don't really need to differentiate your mindset when you're dealing with both the malls. It just works synergistically.
Coming to you, Pushpa, you have the luxury of space, I would say. You have a huge mall and a huge mall to fill it. And as she says, that the personality of the mall develops over time. But when you have such a large mall to fill up and then to, of course, churn it, you've got your hands full. You probably don't want to, probably you wake up every morning and say, I've got to change that brand and get a new one in the place. So you've got more than your hands full, actually. So, tell us a little more about Mall of India and tell us, what exactly or how, already DLF has enough malls, one too many in this country, not just in Delhi. So how is it different? And, how are you as the head of the mall creating the difference to make it a mall, particularly in the minds of the consumers, that it is differentiated?
Right. So I think what worked and what helped was the fact that I had a great base in understanding the consumer needs with Promenade. So when we did Promenade, it was a 460,000 square feet space. It was a boutique mall, but at the same time, we had to create a personality and a differentiation vis-a-vis a large mall which was coming adjacent. We did that with very, very judicious tenant mix. And that experience and the space that we operated in, we understood that consumers, they come in for a certain experience in a mall, and they decide when they step out that, today I'm going to go to Vasant Kunj because this is the experience that I'm going to get. So when we started Mall of India, what we did is that we first looked at the positioning that we want to create. Once we understood through research the need gap in that market, we understood that the wallet power exists hugely. I mean, opposite our mall is GIP. It is a sold property, and at the same time, you'll be amazed to know that some of the top sales happen from that space in GIP. So it proves to us that there is a huge wallet power that exists. The other thing that we did have was, of course, the luxury of space. So when we created that project, it was a 1.3 million square feet project. And this was around 3 years back. And when we went ahead and analyzed, we understood that the market had the absorption to get and take on more brands. So we repositioned it. We said that we're going to be creating India's first destination mall. People have not seen it. A destination mall is what one goes to. Say a Dubai mall is a destination mall. A Siam Paragon is a destination mall, where you can get lost for 2 days and yet feel that you've not covered or done enough shopping. So that's the expanse of space, and we then created it judiciously by zoning the property. So we zoned it through, very 6 judicious zones, wherein the lower ground is called the marketplace. And it's the first time in India that, we pre-zoned the project and then leased it out. This was interesting because, in retail, we always say we want a ground floor, a flat land, all over, like the United States,
next to the
because
gate, yeah.
everyone wants a ground floor, right,
next to the
adjacent to the
entrance,
main
yeah.
gate, yeah. So here I had 6 levels of retail. And we zoned it with a hypermarket in the lower ground with a lot of value fashion. Then we have 2 levels of International Boulevard. And just to give you an understanding of the expanse of space, the International Boulevard is 5,90,000 square feet of space, which is 1,30,000 more than Promenade. So that's the sense that one got. So what we did is for International Boulevard, we created a lot of twin level stores. So you have everything from Forever 21 to M&S to H&M going 4 floors, and with Gap coming in. Of course, all the brands are coming in now, and the newer brands that are getting into the country with Zara. So, and every brand, we wanted them to create their flagship projects. We convinced them to create flagship projects, and thankfully today, they're all doing so. The level above that was an interesting one because, all over India, the second floor is the bane. You ask any developer, he'll say second floor is a problematic floor. So we wanted to convert that problem into an advantage. So what we've created is, as you all know, the high street. I mean, look at all of us here. All 3 women here are into fusion wear or Indian wear. So Indian wear still works very well. So we've created for the first time in India an exclusive space for high street wherein we handpicked Indian and fusion wear. And we anchored it with great department stores, like Lifestyle is our anchor in the 2nd floor. Then the level above, we've created a world called the family world, where we want all the casual dining restaurants, like Dinaz rightly said, high-end dining really doesn't work, so we're creating 23 casual dining restaurants. And in the mall, what we have is food and beverage option of over 77 food options, which is something that people have not seen in the country or experienced in the country so far. The level above, we're creating India's largest indoor entertainment space called the Leisure Land. So what we really did is that we created the vision for the project and then leased it out by convincing people that this is the vision that we have and you would like to, partner with us. Thankfully, yes, they all have got convinced. And today we are in the anvil of opening. We just soft opened the project, and as we speak, I really have no business to be coming in here and speaking at this space, because every week we are having 2 large anchors which are opening all the way to February. And by February, March, the mall, we are looking at it being trading 70 to 80%, which would be a great first. So we are trying to, right from the word go, what we have been trying to do is create new benchmarks for the retail industry, because we believe that India has not seen a destination mall, and we'd like to be the game changer, given the opportunity that DLF has and the bandwidth that DLF has. So that's the vision for the project.
It's a big vision for sure, Pushpa. You need a team to fulfill this vision and a big team to do it.
I have a lovely team. I think I've been ably aided by a fabulous team. And mall business is a team work,
Sure.
Completely, it's a business which is people-led, both from a consumer point of view, retailer point of view, and an employee point of view. And as long as one understands that, I think one is
that's the professionalism I'm really referring to. It cannot be a one person's job to create a great project and to execute and deliver a great one. So well said there, Pushpa. I'll come to the second aspect of my discussion. Whenever I have talked to a mall owner or a retailer, it has always the discussion invariably, for me, has come down to 3 points: whether it's good to rent a store, it's good to have a revenue sharing, or it's good to have an ownership of the store. So, I would like to take your point of view on, all three of you need to comment and tell me, in what situations do you go with either of these three options, if at all you go with them? And, or independently, how do you operate? And what, according to you, actually makes a lot of sense? Or is it more individual, on individual basis, brand to brand, you think it varies? So how does the really economics of ownership works in a mall for a retailer, for your tenant?
Well, see, first of all, I think it's very important to understand the business of the tenant as much as he does. There are a few retailers here, and one of the most important thing is once we understand their business, we know that if it's an F&B space, for example, his capex is going to be higher, and hence we need to allow him a little bit more time to recover his capital expenditure and make some money. So we really focus a lot on revenue share in that case, because as the F&B space goes up, and year 3, year 4 is the highest in terms of trading, and we'd like to ensure that we get the highest revenue share. So over there, we would say MG is important, but revenue share is even more important. Now, when it comes to other fashion brands, we've seen that when it comes to anchors, we have started shortening their leases. Earlier, people used to talk about 15 years and 18 years. We started shortening that lease because even anchors, they don't have a lifetime to survive. Everything is changing. So we try to do 9 years or 12 years even for anchors, even if there are marquee anchors. And, but again, the focus over there is revenue share. Because we know that we will, when we as a mall developer will put in that kind of effort in terms of marketing it, in terms of ensuring that the right consumer come into that project, the upside is something that we are very focused upon. So I think for international and fashion anchors, our focus is clearly revenue share. Now, when it comes to brands like Indian brands, we know they are great, they are fabulous operators. They've also grown over time in terms of experiences, but we are very cognizant of the fact that sometimes they would like to, deal with their business in certain ways. So we go for fixed rentals. In fact, what I've done in Mall of India is I've given them staggered rentals. So which is year 1, year 2, and year 3, they get a staggered rental approach. That way we are happy. We know that we're getting the upside, but at the same time, we are not constantly bothered about auditing their sales. And we, in the malls business, we are very particular, Dinaz and I are extremely particular about creating sales audits and ensuring that the revenue share is kosher. There should not be a leakage. So I think it's important to understand that retailer's business model and rework your own business model accordingly and ensure that, the spaces are there. And lastly, and most importantly is, Of late, we would like to shorten the lease as much as possible for vanillas. So we start with 6 years. The next churn in Mall of India is going to be 3 years.
That's great. So, Dinaz, you also feel that one model does not fit all. You need to have various variety of models, different strokes for different folks.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, for example, in Emporio, we'd have barely 30% of our brands that are on revenue share with us, whilst it's the reverse in Promenade. So you'd have as much as 70% on revenue share. But as far as possible, as Pushpa mentioned, we try to protect the tenant because they're putting in a lot of investment in the capex, but ultimately it's a business game for both of us, for the tenants as well as for us. So you have to look at a win-win situation. It also depends on one important factor, how much do you require that brand to be part of the mall? If the brand is really critical to you, if it's crucial to you, if it is a category you don't have and you'd like to offer to your consumers, then at that point you're willing to compromise and you will possibly even come in with a pure revenue share deal, which is beneficial to the tenant, of course, but not so much to the mall. Of course, as soon as the brand starts doing well, you start doing well, but you are compromised at the beginning. So that is a spin-off that you need to consider. But other than that, yes, you would have either a pure rental deal or you'd have a minimum guarantee and then a revenue share over and above. So you're partnering with them in ensuring they have initial costs low, but as soon as their business starts growing, your business starts growing as well.
I agree with them completely, but I'd like to elaborate a little bit. There are only two factors in it. One is the occupancy cost of a retailer varies from 1% to 22% or 25% depending on the business model. So Indian developers at the moment are struggling to find out what is the right, because sometimes we ask wrong percentage to the right people, so, and there's a disconnect always. So high-end watches, for example, cannot afford high revenue share, so it has to start from very low revenue share, whereas some formats and some categories can afford more, and some brands within those categories, it varies from brand to brand. So one has to be very, very careful in asking for a revenue share, because there is a percentage which a retailer can afford to pay, and beyond that he will not be able to pay. Second factor is that the strength of the brand and the mall. I'll give you an example. Like we were doing a food court, and Sarvana Bhavan was the tenant, and he said, charge me highest MG, but don't take revenue share, because he was very sure that he'll do very, very high numbers. So he's not worried about the minimum guaranteed rent, but he's worried about the revenue share. On the other hand, there was another tenant, Toddy Shop, for example, a new tenant, and he said, okay, charge me any amount of revenue share, but don't give me MG, because he is not sure how much he'll do. So depending on the strength of the brand and the confidence the brand has in the mall or the mall has in the brand, so both combination have to work together. And a combination of both is the way forward for sure. But as we become more knowledgeable as brick and mortar people, I mean, I'm yet to figure out whether we are lazy or it's the mindset. But I mean, if you see, compared with the e-commerce guys, they know their consumers so well. So slowly we'll also evolve, and we'll also reach to ask the right percentage and right MG sometime in the future.
I want to add something here. The other thing that happens is sometimes the brand is so desperate wanting to be in your mall. Now, the easiest thing for the developer at that point would be to take that and give a very high MG and take them on, but that would be detrimental to the mall. So you have to be very careful, especially when you want to ensure that the consumers get the best offerings. You do not compromise on the brands that you bring in just because of the rental that they're offering you. So that is a choice that the developer has to make, and that's why certain malls are so successful and certain malls don't make the cut because of this aspect, because you need to be conscious. You need to trade off your rentals vis-a-vis the brand that you're bringing in.
The point is there are no shortcuts. You have to really eventually keep the consumer's interest at heart to make money out of your own project. So I think a great point there, Dinaz, Yogeshwar, Pushpa.